Welcome to another episode of Homeroom, where we talk about what's changed in Greater Houston real estate, what it can mean for you and your next move. Goal of Homeroom is simple: it's to talk real estate without the jargon and to give you an update what's changed in real estate past week, past month, and answer your questions. Open up the chat so that way you can let me know where you're from, let me know what you're looking to do, what questions you have about real estate. A lot of times I feel like there's just a disconnect in the way realtors like me talk and the way consumers like you hear. And oftentimes it's just because we're not talking with each other, right? So again, I'm just hopping on here. Here are 4 things that I want us to cover today. Number 1 is we're going to talk about what's changed in Houston real estate. Number 2, we'll talk about how does this affect you? How does this impact you? Number 3, I'll show my work. I'll give you numbers, talk about what that actually means. And then, of course, number 4, what you should check or do next. I got my notes. This is live. It's not pre-recorded. There's no producer behind the scenes editing out the bloopers. So just give me grace if it doesn't flow as naturally as we should say, as if I had a teleprompter in front of me. Yeah? Awesome. All right. So, by the way, hit that subscribe button. Share, comment, like, subscribe, all those good things. All right, let's get into it. Houston Market Brew. Today is Tuesday. And so one of the things I definitely want to talk about is that Houston homeowners have a better chance to move right now than they did a year ago. And here why I say that. Last year, previous years, you may have been a homeowner that was interested in selling your home, and yet at that time there wasn't a lot of options available on the market. There weren't a lot of homes for sale. And so a lot of the objections or concerns that we heard from homeowners was, I don't want to sell my home and not buy a home, not find a home. That fear of being in between. And so many homeowners decided, I'm going to wait until the market just changes, not even really knowing what we're waiting for, just that moment at that time, it just wasn't right. Well, the good news is that we have more homes on the market right now, which if you are in the market to buy, it's more options. So if you were one of those sellers that thought, I'm not going to wait to sell my home because I don't want to be without a home. Well, if you're in Houston, you have a better chance now because there are more homes for sale than previous, especially even with new construction. There's more new construction on the market than previous years. Sellers are more open to negotiating. Builders are more open to negotiating. We're seeing great opportunities. You guys see Legend. We see great opportunities happening with closing cost assistance, rate buy downs, down payment assistance programs. I mean, really right now is the market that a lot of people were waiting on. And let me share this, right? We talk about crashes and drops, and let me just address that head on. If your home appreciated 50 to 75% in value since the time that you purchased it, and the market stabilizes, it pulls back maybe 10%, you're still up, right? It's a lot like the stock market, right? If you have stock and you buy stock in Disney, and Disney, I don't know, I ain't checked the market, but let's just say Disney is selling for $150 a share right now, that's what you're going to get. If you bought it at 75, amen. If you bought it at 200, amen. The market is the market. What you want to decide is, what is it that I'm looking to do? What's the next chapter in my life, right? And I think it's important for us to talk about that because real estate, number 1, is local. And number 2, it depends on when you got in, what you're looking to do. Not everybody's goal is to flip. Some people's goal is to hold, not even looking to be an investor. Some people are just buying home for shelter, and that all of those strategies are okay. What's up, Shay? So when we talk about what's happening in the real estate market, my intention is just so that way you guys become better equipped to talk about how it relates to your own personal economy, right? And so if you're going into I love this, Penelope, you're going into the 7th grade, man, my advice would be know who you are and know one thing that you want to get out this year. I remember going into 7th grade, I actually think I was moving schools, so I was making a lot of new friends, and it's real easy to be impressionable. So Penelope, thank you for hopping in. I would just ask that you just Write down one goal that you want to achieve this year. Maybe it's make more friends, maybe it's be more athletic, maybe it's do better in your studies, right? And then just share that goal with one person that you trust, one person that you feel like you can just kind of talk to. And don't overcomplicate it. Don't make a big list. Just one thing that you want to work on this year, and share that with somebody that you trust. Have a great school year, Penelope. So let's get back to real estate, right? So I talked about Houston homeowners having more chances right now. Also, this is important if you need to sell a home and buy another, because Houston homes have become a little bit more affordable. And here's what I mean by that. They said, according to the Houston Association of Realtors, which is our governing board here in Houston, it's what realtors use. I know a lot of people use other sites, realtor.com, Zillow, and all those things. That they syndicate from HAR. So if you're looking for accurate information, then you want to go to HAR, because that's where realtors are inputting listings, inputting data, inputting actual sales and close prices. So according to Houston Association of Realtors, also known as HAR, 40% of Houston area households could afford the typical home during the second quarter of 26. Last year, only 36% could. And so people may be saying, well, but home prices are still affordable. Affordable is relative. So before we start talking really about affordability, let's talk about budgets. Let's take a look at our own personal economies. How much are you spending currently on rent? How much can you realistically afford on a mortgage? Start there and be realistic, right? Like if you know that your apartment is $1,700 a month, let's not go into the real estate market talking about, well, I want to buy a house, but I don't want my payment to be more than $800. That's not realistic. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you're going to compromise maybe on location, the condition, how much money you need to bring it back up to standards that you desire. And so the people who win in real estate aren't delusional, right? They have a bar or some kind of data on, like, here's what homes are really doing. Here's what they're selling for. If you're selling a home, here's what homes in your neighborhood are selling for. If you're buying a home, here's what homes in this neighborhood are selling for, right? It all comes to reality checks. And you don't have to knock it out the park on your first buy. I think that's a lot of times what people miss, is that we compare ourselves, we compare our insides with somebody else's outsides, we compare our insides with somebody else's Instagram reel, or some creator's reel on this mini mansion out in Manville, and we say, well, I can't buy that, I'm not gonna buy anything. I encourage you to buy what you can right now, because the benefit of ownership is that you get to hold on to an asset that appreciates in value. You get to leverage an asset that appreciates in value. So even if you move into it temporarily for 2 years or so, 3 years or so, 7 years, 10 years, however long you choose to stay there, well, now you've got the market working on your behalf. And we know, even if it goes like this, it goes up, right? It doesn't always go like that. There are market dips and blips. And if you enter this property properly, say that 3 times fast, you're going to find yourself better just because of time. Time will do the heavy lifting. So I told you that I would give you data to support this. So write this down if you got your notes. Number one, the typical home price, the typical Houston area home price fell to $345,000. That does not mean that there are not homes lower than that, higher than that. I'm just talking about median prices. Most buyers, if you go out and look for new construction, this is a good kind of like, okay, here's what most homes are selling for, right? That's just that truth talk. Mortgage rates fell from 6.79 to 6.41. I would encourage you not to get so focused on mortgage rates that it paralyzes you, because mortgage rates, until you decide to buy, will consistently remain volatile. What's more important is that you focus on that monthly number. Again, your personal economy. How much home can I afford? How much a month can I realistically afford? And let's work backwards from there. If you can afford the payment, I'm encouraging you to go ahead and make that decision and go forward. And then for your next purchase, you can have the equity from your first home to get into that next home, right? If you have the savings, if you got a job income coming in consistently, you got consistent income, and you got your credit score, then I would highly recommend speaking with the local realtor, speaking with someone you touch. I sell real estate here in Houston, Harris County. I help first-time home buyers. I have, I help current homeowners. So if you guys have questions, then of course I'm here to help. The reason this matters is because if your payment of your next home felt like it was going to be too high, if you're feeling like, okay, if I go from rent to own, it's going to be too high, then you owe it to yourself to check those numbers again. A lot of times we are imagining things a lot worse than what they truly are. And if we just open up the conversation to talk to a professional, it's not a commitment, right? It's just information. Then you can make an informed decision. And this is also important, like I said, because if you own a home, that means that your current equity is also possibly lower if home prices are adjusting. So it's a good idea to talk to someone so that way we can get what your true equity value is, what you can borrow against, what you would realistically walk away from if you're looking to sell. So I know I got a lot of talk and questions in the chat. Of course, I appreciate all of you guys saying hello. Yeah, I do want to just, before we wrap up, find out what questions do you have about Houston real estate? What questions do you have about your own personal economy, preparing to buy a home, looking to sell a home? If you got questions on that, definitely drop it in the chat. And then hit the subscribe button. A lot of times I just like to hop on here and just say hello, introduce myself. I release videos daily, weekly sometimes. Yeah, every now and then I do want to come on and just let you guys know that it's a real person behind this screen. Real fingers, real toes. It's not AI. It's not some, I don't even know what's happening with technology. It's me. So I see you guys in the chat. Thank you so much for the compliments. Thank you so much for the questions. Definitely want to wish you guys a great school year. Like I said, if you're stepping into school, if parents taking your children, taking the littles to school, the parents that are dropping their children off to college, experiencing freshman year, and those of you going into senior year, it's going to be a great year. And the way we look at things changes the way that we see things, right? So definitely go into it with a positive attitude. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Thank you so much. Hit that subscribe button. I'll see